Welcome back, crew, to lesson 2. This time we are going to learn about moving sprites around the stage. And I think we're going to blow something up. Alright, let's do it. We're going to start a new project. So I start by clicking the new project button. Now we'll wait a second to see the new project come up. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, let's look at the Scratchcat up here on the right hand side. Oh, this is the important bit. Look at this. When we move them around, these numbers change. X number and that Y number. So the stage is like a big white square, but I need to tell Scratch exactly where I want to put my sprite. So how do I name all the points on the stage where my sprite could be? I could put my sprite here and say, this spot is named Susan, and then I move the sprite over here and I say, this spot is named Mary, and Scratch didn't use that naming convention for places on the stage, but instead they said every point on the stage is a combination of X and Y values. That seems crazy, but that's what they did. And when I move the sprite to a new location, I can see the X, Y values in these boxes that represent the specific location on the screen. I think they should have given them person names. Okay, all this X, Y location stuff leads us to this week's Geek of the Week. There's a guy that was named Descartes. He was born at the turn of the century. Nobody knows exactly which century, but he was a philosopher, and somehow he proved that we all exist. He also explained to us how Scratch uses coordinates to place sprites on the stage, and this coordinate system that we use in Scratch was named after Descartes. They call it Cartesian coordinates. And you might say, well, why didn't they call it Cartesian coordinates? Well, maybe that's because he's of Cart or something. Here's how Cartesian coordinates work. Imagine a number line is running horizontally. Now imagine another one that's running vertically. Another number line. It also has a 0 in the middle. It's got positive numbers on one side. It's got negative numbers on the other. Then imagine that you stole a plastic frog from the toy bin by the bathtub. And imagine that that frog can go anywhere you told it to as long as you give it coordinates. So let's try it. Okay, Froggy, let's go to X equals 4 and Y equals 2. The frog walks along the X number line, also called an x-axis, until it gets to 4, and then it turns, it's going to head north, and it goes as high as Y equals 2. On the vertical number line, that is. That's the y-axis. At that point, the frog is going to X equals 4 and Y equals 2. Nice job, Frog. Okay, Froggy, you're going to go to a couple more places. Okay, go back to the center. This time, go back to -2 and 3, positive 3. Nice. Okay. This time, go to -4 and -1. Then you get back to the center. Get back to the center. Okay. Then this time, go to positive 5 and -2. That's good. Okay, there you go. Good job. Good job, Frog. Do you remember last time we used this move block where we just moved 10 steps? The block was cool, but it was kind of like a teleport. It's like boink, and then you were 10 steps to the right. They've got another block that's cool for movement. It's called the glide block. Instead of just disappearing where you are and reappearing 10 steps over, you can say how many seconds to take for gliding over. So if you say go over in 1 second, you go slow. If you say glide over in 1/10 of a second, it's like shunk. It'd be quick. Anyways, let's look at a preview of the program that we're going to write. It's like a baking show where they pre-make the cake. So we got 2 sprites. One's the Scratchcat, and he's got a TNT plunger that's going to ignite the TNT. The other sprite is the dove, which is also known as the bird of peace. It's going to settle down on the TNT, and then the Scratchcat is going to try and blow up the bird of peace. You know. Okay, guys, let's do a new project. Let us name this project Glider. How about that? Okay, as soon as it comes up, Glider. Okay, I want to have 2 sprites. I want to have the cat, and I want to have the bird. Well, we have the cat out there, so let's just scooch him to the side. And let us add the dove. And the dove, it's not just a dove, it's a dove with an olive branch. Okay, so there's the dove with the olive branch. And that's going to come out at 100% size, which is too big I'm going to say 50% size, that's going to be half the size. So right now, the dove has no behavior at all. So this time, since we're really programming this time, I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about these categories of code blocks. Do you remember from the first time we talked about events and how the Scratch is a world of events? Let's take a quick look at some of the events. And we're familiar with this one, with the green arrow is clicked. That's the start of the program. Let's see what other things you can react to. When the sprite is clicked, you could do something when somebody clicks on the sprite. That's handy. When I receive a message, we'll talk about messages in the future. For right now, messages. When a key is pressed, that could be handy. You could have the sprite do something when you hit the space bar. So let's do our gliding, shall we? We'll start by placing the dove in the center of the screen at the start of the program. Let's go to the motion category, because that's all motion things, movement. So when the program starts, I want this to always go to 0, 0. X equals 0 and y equals 0. If you remember from the number line that we just did. Okay, 0, 0 is the center of the stage. And yep, it sure looks like it. Okay, so let's next have the dove start gliding around. Let's send it to the upper right first. And if you remember from the Cartesian coordinates minutes ago, we expect it to be some positive x and some positive y. So let's just drag it up there and see x is 176, it says right there, y is 131. Let's just see how far it goes to the right, just to see. It looks like x is topping out at 240. That's as far to the right as you can go. So let's say right there, that is x equals 176, y is 125, and this was 0, 0 in the middle. We went over 176 to the right, then we went north 125, just like the little frog did. Okay. So we're going to say, let's glide to x equals 176 and y equals 125. And look at that. They were so kind. They filled it in for us, Scratch people. Let's say that I felt like this was a little too high. Then I would say 110 and for y. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. Now here's a trick you can do. If you click on that, it will actually execute it. So he's now slightly lower than he was. Now let's have him glide over here. Maybe he glides, up to here. And that's going to be negative 185, which makes sense because on the x-axis, 0 is in the middle. The furthest you can go was negative 240, so we're not going to go quite that far. We have x equals negative 180, y equals 130. Now, Scratch is nice to us. Look at, they primed the glide block with the current sprite xy. Thank you, Scratch nerds. Over here, look, as I move this guy around, it keeps changing what's in the glide block because it thinks we're going to drag it out. And guess what? We're going to drag it out. Let's put him in right in the center at the top. That's going to be x equals 59. That's just a little bit past the center because, 0 is the center. He's going to go up 143 points north of the center line. And all right, let's run this thing. See how we're doing. He's going to go to 0, 0 first, to the center, and he flies to the right. I remember that. We did. Then he goes to the left. Then he goes to the middle-ish. Okay, so this next section is really where I draw all the costumes needed for the Scratch Cat to do the explosion. I'm gonna break that out as a separate video lesson that you can watch. But for the moment, what we're going to do is steal that Scratch Cat with all of its costumes from my project, and I'm going to show you how to do that. It's going to save you so much time, and then we can get back to drawing in the other video. Okay, but for right now, you're going to go back to the Scratch home, and you click on that icon in the upper left, and then you're going to search for T Skolnick. It's going to be T as in Ted, S as in Skolnick, K as in Kolnick, O as in Olnick, L as in Olnick, N as in Nick, I as in Ick, C as in K, and K as in K. Yeah, that helps. Yeah, that helps. Okay, in there you're going to find my Lesson 2 project, and then you're going to go inside of that guy. Inside of that guy, you're going to see this thing called a backpack. You're going to go to Sprite 1, and you're going to drop it in the backpack. The backpack, it's a metaphor for a backpack. Then we go back to My Stuff. That's where you're going to find your project, the My Stuff thing. Okay, then my project, I didn't name it, so it's just called Untitled 7. Then I open up the backpack one more time, and there it is. That sprite is in the backpack, the one that you stole from me, and you put it in your project. And now you can look. You've got it as if you drew it yourself. You actually have the code for this guy, which you might want to chop out. Of course, you could leave it. I'm not going to judge. I'm not judging. Okay, that's it. Back to the program. To get the dove onto the TNT, that is, X is 200, maybe? I don't know, maybe 180 looks right. I don't know, let's see what, yeah. I'm looking down here. 170? 170 is good. And then I'm going to guess he goes down to negative 40, which is just below the center line, where he was. Okay, so let's go down. Okay, I think I'm going to settle on negative 46 for the Y. So we want to glide to that point, and that will put the dove on top of the TNT. Okay, let's run this thing. And then we'll see that he glides around like all the glides that we set up before. And then ends up right on top of the TNT. Now the only thing I want to do here is see how it looks like he's in front of the TNT a little bit. I want his tail to look like it's behind it. So let's go back to these categories of blocks over there. There's a category called looks. You can see which kind of things are in there. It's like all this costume stuff that you'd expect. But you can also tell the sprite to go behind the other sprites. So I'm going to say it to go to the back when it first starts, so it's a little bit behind the TNT. He's going to go to the back layer, so he's behind all the sprites. So now, when he finishes up, you will see the TNTs in front of him, and let's take a look. Yeah, well, what do you think? I think it's great. Okay, maybe he needs to be adjusted to be a little bit higher. Okay, negative 44. I'm just going to tweak that a little bit. It's okay. Now what do we need? Okay, now we need to turn our attention to the behavior for the scratch cat. But before I go back, I just want to watch the bird fly one more time, because it looks like we've got 4 glides on this costume. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each glide is 1 second. So doing the math, that means that the bird is flying around for 4 seconds. So I want to remember that when we get to the cat for the plunger timing, because I want the cat to wait for 4 seconds before pressing down the plunger. And when we get to the scratch cat, I want to make sure he's on costume 1 always. And then we're going to wait for 4 seconds before pressing the plunger. Actually, maybe 6 seconds, because the bird will rest for 2 seconds. And I will let the tension build for a moment. And then the cat has not yet reacted to the start event, so let's give him a start event. He's got a whole bunch of costumes, and just to make sure he's on the right costume, since he'll be on a different costume at the end when he steps through his costumes, I'm always going to say, go set the costume to costume 1 at the start. Now, if we look at the costume 1, yeah, that's before he's pressed the plunger, so that's good. Now we want to find that weight block. So the question is, what category is that in? And all right, so it does not seem like a motion thing. It's definitely not a sound thing. Let's see. The events are like clicking on a thing. So let's look at the control blocks. And that's where we found it. The wait block is in the control blocks. And let's put the 6-second wait in there. And, okay. That will be the perfect comedic timing. All right, after 6 seconds, we want to start switching costumes for the animation. And the first part's going to be the plunger. So we're going to switch to costume 2. That's the push down of the plunger. Yep, costume 2 looks great. He's just pushed down the plunger. So let's go take it from the top. The bird's flying around. The bird lands. Good, he landed. The second passes, a couple seconds, then the cat waits a bit. He presses down the plunger, and there you go. After the plunger goes down, we gotta have this. We gotta switch to the explosion sequence. So I think I want to add another little pause, so it doesn't happen right away. So you're not sure what's going to happen next. Then we'll step through the explosion costumes. So let's go look at the categories where the costumey blocks are, which, if you guessed, it's in the looks section. Okay, we'll bring out costume 3. That's the first of the explosion costumes. And we're going to step through 4, 5, and 6. And that's the end of the explosions. Okay, so here I switched to costume switch. 6, I mean. I should have done costume 3, but I'm going to fix that. Remember how I said the computer is incredibly fast? If we just switched costumes and didn't have the weights, you wouldn't see them. It'd just be on costume 6 instantly. So we need a little bit of a wait in between each one. And then we're going to get all decimal like. I'm going to add 0.1 seconds so make it really tight. So it's like switch, 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 switch. And then actually, let's just run this. Let's just run it. Okay, go. Fly, fly, fly. Fly, fly, fly. Land, land, land. Plunge, plunge, plunge. And, oh, yeah, so that was the costume switch. Okay, we got to fix it up. It went right to costume 6. Let's go to costume 3 first. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to duplicate this little section, these 2 blocks, because we're going to use them over and over again. We're going to costume and wait, costume, wait. So let's just duplicate it a few times. And we'll then have a costume 3 block, costume 4, a costume 5, and then you're going to watch me fumble around here for a little bit. There's costume 5, and I need one more switch costume. Of course it's under looks, but I forgot. There it is. Get it. Okay. Costume 6. Perfect. Okay, that's a quick review. He waits before he plunges, and then after the plunge, there's a shorter wait, and then there's even shorter waits to step through the explosion costumes. And yeah, this is awesome. Okay, watch this. Go bird, land, plunge. And yeah, that's awesome. There's our program. All right, now I want to go back and fix up the dove, because I know the dove is flying about, but the dove could be flapping. So they actually gave us 2 costumes for the dove to make the flapping easy. They got the upwing and the downwing costumes. Okay, so ready? Here's kind of a fun new concept. Okay, prepare yourself for this. We have one set of behavior when we click the go event, but you can do more. You can have another set of behavior when you click the go event, and the dove has got a big brain, so it can do a whole bunch of things at once. So one part of his brain is going to be doing the gliding, and then the other part, you can have that controlling the flapping. Now, when I was a kid, I always thought that I had this like reserve brain that I'm actually still in search of this reserve brain that's smarter than my regular brain. And I'm going to find it, because otherwise my parents were right. So let's switch from costumes. Let's switch costumes to go from wings up to wings down. And just a little wait between. And let's duplicate this thing so we can flap a few times. You will flap maybe, let's see, it takes 4 seconds to settle down. So let's do 4 slaps. 4 flaps. Let's do 4 slaps. Let's do 4 flaps. We'll wait a second between each one. And then, yeah, that's good. I'm going to like this. I changed my mind. I don't like this. I hate this. Okay, I've got a very deep loathing of this. This dove only has 2 costumes, so instead of continually saying switch to costume A and switch to costume B, what we can do a different costume block, and this is going to be nicer. So let us just use this block that's called next costume, because it'll go from A to B to A to B, and you just keep saying next costume when you only have 2 costumes. It's easy. Now we're going to wait, do the next costume. We just do that a few times, and let me just set this up. Next costume, wait, next costume, wait, next costume, and wait. This is awesome. Okay, we're going to do this we could do this in an even nicer way in the future when we do looping, but that's in the future. And so for the moment, let's just marvel at the flapping that we got. I am very proud of us. I feel a wave of positivity. Okay, but I think, there's one more thing to do. I think I said that before, but now there is only one more thing. We need a sound effect for the explosion. Now the cat's brain is controlling costumes and the plunger and all that, but the brain also can do more on the cat. It can wait for a little bit and then create the explosion sound. So at very least, we got to record the explosion sound. So let's go up here to the sound blocks and let's go record. This part's kind of fun. You're going to do this bit endlessly. And you're going to really annoy people with all the recordings because you just gotta. Okay, so I press the record button. All right, that looks good. I'm going to save that. Let's play it again. Good. And then we're going to name this, let's name it explosion so we remember what it is. Okay, then we go back to the code. And here we go. And then we're going to play the sound. But you know, they got a block over here that's better than the play sound. You know what we could do? We have this block that's called start sound. Like the play sound is going to play the sound and not go on to the next block until the sound's over. But the start sound is going to play the sound and then it's going to move on to the next block while the sound's still going. And I think we want that. We want the explosion to go while the sound's going. So we just need to figure out where to drop this thing. And I think we want to drop it right before the costume 3, like the start of the explosion. So we just pop it in there, and then we run this. Okay, shh, wait for it. Oh yeah, that's good. Okay guys, that's it for lesson 2. Thanks for visiting, and stay tuned for lesson 3, and until I see you again, stay well.